So that was fast. The Writers Guild of America has already signed a deal with the Hollywood studios, a 4-year deal instead of a 3-year deal.
Well, they wanted the studios wanted a 5 year, so I guess that was probably a compromise there.
And apparently the WGA took the first deal that came along. So, and this is as their own staff, the WGA's own staff, they're on strike. They've lost their health insurance. They've signed a new deal with the studios for 4 years, and we'll talk about why
they get their health insurance paid for.
Oh yeah, they get theirs paid for. And so there are some Hollywood writers that are, obviously out there celebrating it. Thank God we're not going on another strike. I'm going to tell you what's happening. Basically, beggars can't be choosers. I don't think we're going to have an issue with the actors either, because everybody in Hollywood knows the double strikes crippled Hollywood. That it collapsed. I mean, things were already on the decline with them cutting back on streaming because of the streaming wars, and they went on strike, both the actors and the writers, and it destroyed Hollywood. And they're still trying to rebuild. And I think they're like, you know what? Either we take the deal, or we're going to be putting fries in the bag. And Burger King's hiring 60,000 people, I guess. So there you go. But no, I think at this point, unfortunately, and I'm not saying it's right, but I think the unfortunate reality is when times are tough, you have to kind of take, the deal or get the best deal you can, but realize like things are never going to be what they were before.
I know, but I'm just like also this, meanwhile, they're making deals on go us, but they can't even get their staff union a deal.
Yeah,
it's really a bad look. It really truly is.
Not great. It's not. I'm going to be honest. It's not great. So let's talk about this before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And this negotiation was over before it really began. It's kind of crazy. I expected a little more, but. Yeah, whatever.
I mean, well, it still wasn't done because they still have to vote on it. The members have to vote on it and ratify it.
It's tentative, yeah.
So, there's still that. But as long as they might be so gun shy, like you said, that they're going to be like, yep, take what we can get. We got money for our health insurance.
For them. Not
for them.
Not for their people, their own employees, So I want to show you the numbers here first, and then we'll go through and read the article from the Hollywood Reporter. So numbers are pretty dire right now. So this is apparently the number of television writing jobs by level. And in 2018, 2019, the lower level jobs, staff writer, story editor, executive story editor, 795, right? By 2023, 2024, we're down to 446.
Yeah, no, they did have a bit of a jump. Now, it was funny to me because in 2019 and 2020, it drops. But then they all thought, hey, all the streaming shows are doing so great because people were home with COVID. And by the time they actually hired more and greenlit more shows, people were back to work anyway. So that's why you see this steep jump. And that's when that's when they were greenlighting all these shows. And that's when the strikes happened. And it went down by a third or whatever, down to half to a third by 2023, 2024.
Mid-level jobs, co-producer through consulting, supervising producer. In 2018, 2019, it was 708. By 2023, 2024, we're down to 421. Upper-level jobs, that would be the co-executive producer through showrunner. So these are the top-level people.
Wait, why do you need that many? Okay, wait. Why do you need that many generals?
That is a good question. That is actually, yes.
Unless it's just a bunch of people just doing the shows themselves. They weren't.
That actually does happen. A lot of times the executive producers, the showrunners will write episodes or whatever themselves. But they said, 1,500 people, 2018 and 2019. And by 2023, 2024, 952. So we're seeing a massive decrease in the number of working people in Hollywood because there aren't as many jobs. And a big reason for that was the double strikes.
Well, what gets me is I'm looking at this and then the 2019, go back down, 2019, 2020. They have a lot of 2019. And by the next year, it drops a whole lot. And then that's when they greenlit a bunch of stuff. So by the time the strikes hit, they had a record number of people being employed.
Yes.
That were way more than they needed because they made bad decisions the year or two prior. And then we said, you guys, who is left is going to get, there's a lot of people who aren't going to have jobs. And then it just went by almost half across the board. By 2023, 2024, we don't know what the numbers are for the last year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad, I mean, it's not good. So if they're taking the or second deal that comes along and we're not looking at weeks of negotiations. This is probably why. And I expect the same thing to happen with the actors too. So Hollywood Reporter, thank God Writers Guild members react to surprise deal as drag out fight gets averted.
Well, I'm sure Amp Tip doesn't want it to go out too long either, because it's going to look bad for them as well.
So they said, in the wake of a surprise deal struck by the Writers Guild of America with studios and streamers announcing on Saturday, arrived earlier than many expected. WGA members expressed gratitude they weren't about to face another down-to-the-wire negotiation or strike like they did just 3 years before.
Meanwhile, the staff union, who makes sure you get paid, is still on strike.
Stripped of health care amid strike. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it might be good news for the WGA, but who's gonna cut the checks? Right. So the 2023 writers' strike, widely supported within the union 3 years ago, has cast a long shadow, and many writers weren't eager to face a repeat of the labor action. I think everyone's relieved. Showrunner David Steinberg of No Good Nick said in an interview, it sort of came out of the blue that all of a sudden a tentative agreement had been reached, and all the writers I talked to on social media were like, thank God. We're obviously still waiting on the details, but anything that calms the industry down is the most important thing in my book.
Meanwhile, it's the most important thing in your book, but your staff union is still without anything.
Healthcare, just saying.
But good for you, I guess.
Yeah, this is Jeff Roth. The whole business needs to walk back from this existential cliff we're constantly being told about as it's becoming self-fulfilling.
It's not self-fulfilling. It's just the natural progression. You guys over greenlit everything. You picked things that were stupid. You picked things that were, we went all in on this, far left insanity. No one watched your shit. No one wanted your shit. And the audiences were like, no, thank you. So it was not a surprise to anybody but you guys.
So it's interesting. They haven't released the details yet. I know
they keep saying that. Yeah.
This might be the fly in the ointment here. They said opinions could change once people saw the fine print, but they said it's a 4-year plan instead of a 3-year plan. It protects the health plan. It builds on gains from 2023 and helps address free work challenges. But what the WGA has said has been enough to get writers talking. The expansion of the contract term from 3 to 4 years represents a potentially risky move for the labor group, given the rapid changes, consolidation, cost cutting, and the use of generative AI. Yep, an extended deal means that the WGA may have to wait longer to make significant contractual changes if issues crop up in the next few years.
And Amp Tip wanted 5 years. So they already clearly gave in on that. And they're like, all they keep saying is it protects our pensions and our healthcare, because they wanted this huge healthcare infusion. They aren't saying anything else. They aren't saying, well, there's going to be less jobs. They aren't saying that, some of you get paid more, get better conditions, and there will be less people. They aren't saying anything of that. They're just like, it protects those. They aren't saying much about the AI and all that.
No. So this is Mark Guggenheim. He said the extra year on the term is a bit of a bitter pill given the rapid pace of AI evolution, but it was a necessary and quite predictable trade-off to save the health fund. This is a guy who was slamming them for not taking care of their people.
They still aren't taking care of their people.
They're still, as far as I know, they're still not taking care of their own people. This is kind of where I assumed we'd end up. Overall, he's pleased with what he knows about the deal so far. There's the issue of the WGA potentially having just dislodged itself from its typical negotiating schedule. The union usually bargains in the same year as SAG-AFTRA and Directors Union, the Directors Guild of America. It's not clear whether those two will change their customary 3-year contract lengths in their own negotiations, but that could upset the usual schedule. It could be every rat for themselves at this point. It could just be like, we're not gonna go in with the actors and stuff too. They said, I'm aware of what the issue is, that you want to be aligned with the other deals and bring pressure if you need to. But basically at this point, I'm going to tell you, beggars can't be choosers.
That's what it basically is. Now, WGA, if you get this ratified, can you please do something about your staff union?
Yeah, right. I mean, this
really, really shitty. I'm not going to lie.
They'll probably be like, okay, well, since we're not getting as much money, we're just going to cut everybody loose.
They can do that, but who's going to do the work? You still need the staff union. The staff union are the people that are actually making the WGA stuff go. The writers and stuff that are part of the union, that's who make sure they get the residuals and all those things, were the staff.
This is weird, though, because they said, yeah, the relative speed with which Saturday's deal was struck represented another pivot for the WGA. They said the union is usually known for deploying aggressive tactics like negotiating down to the last minute of a contract's term and or taking a strike authorization vote to increase leverage. Basically, like, if you don't give us what we want, we'll go on strike. They didn't even do that this time.
Well, I think it's a combination. One, who knows what they were threatened with because they took the 4-year. But two, I don't think they have that leverage because they're going to be like, well, you're not giving a deal to your staff union. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if they hadn't had that in the background, they might have had a little more legs to stand on kind of thing.
Well, okay, and here it is, guys. God, we should be in charge of the union. Still, many members who spoke with the Hollywood Reporter argued that industry conditions in 2026 may have required a fresh approach. Writer employment has declined compared with the high-flying era of peak TV, when streamers were more focused on attracting subscribers than earning a profit. And WGA leaders made no secret about the dire state of their health fund, which lost a cumulative $122 million in fiscal years 2023 and 2024. Basically, beggars can't be choosers, and they took the first deal, I think, that came along, and they're like, we're not even going to go on strike because it's going to kill us at this point.
Well, I think there's that. And I think the fact that, this is why they're desperate to get in like podcasting and YouTube and stuff like that, because they're eating Hollywood's lunch. And like people are spending more time on YouTube and watching streamers or going to podcasts or watching TikTok, and they're not watching the shows Hollywood's putting out. So it's not just, which I agree, the streamers were trying to get subscribers. True. I agree with that. But because they were dumb and decided they were going to all have their own streaming service and had to Highlander each other. But that's part of it too. They Highlanded each other. You have fewer services. They're going to have fewer shows and stuff, and everybody's going to be pivoting to other entertainment. So good luck, I guess. That's why they're trying to push themselves into everything else.
Yeah. The contraction in work put a lot of stress on our fund because fewer writers working means decreased contributions coming into the plan.
That's why we need to go to podcasting and YouTube and try to force those people to unionize so we have money.
In 2026, in other words, the WGA was in a very different position than it was 3 years prior, when its leaders felt emboldened to sustain a 148-day strike in order to reach...
And we told you then.
It was going to blow up.
We told you then. This was stupid. They're cutting shows. They're getting rid of stuff. They're overproducing. It's not bringing the money. You might get some of the things you want, but there's going to be fewer of you. Go look at the videos. We told you.
They said, in order to reshape payment in the streaming era and establish inaugural protections against AI, its members, many still fatigued from the 2023 strike, don't seem poised, at least for now, to nitpick their deal or criticize their union for not pushing hard enough. Basically, you look at these numbers, we can't afford to lose more jobs.
Well, notice they don't have the jobs, the 2024 to 2025 on there.
Yeah.
Are they even worse? And they don't want people to know?
They might, either they don't have the numbers or they're worse. Yeah. I don't know. Well, because it'd be 20.
Right now they'd have the numbers.
Yeah, it'd be 24 to 25. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's going to be really interesting. But yeah, it just tells me that they knew things were bad. They just took what they could get, and they've got their own union, they're dealing with their strike, their internal strike. So now I will be interested to see if they actually do resolve the issue with their own internal union now that they've resolved the issue with the studios.
I don't know. Maybe let's hope they do, because it's ridiculous. But I'm really interested to see what AMP-TIP does now, the SAG-AFTRA does. With what happened with WGA, I'm very, really interested to see where that goes.
All right, we're going to wrap it up?
Yes.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.